Yeah. Welcome to the Lift Your Legacy podcast with your host, Jacob Rupp. Today I have the great pleasure of welcoming Rabbi Eliyahu Rubanovich, who has been I would put you in the father figure category for going on about 15 years or 14 years. 15 years?
Wow,
Could be 15 years.
that's
It's a long time.
time.
It's a long
Yeah.
time. One of the major things that made a huge impact on me as I started growing in my Jewish observance was how the family life and how a person is able to really create excellence in their family life and in their own spiritual and mental health areas. And, you know, a lot of people talk a big game, and the ones that are really doing it rarely talk the big game, but just do it. And from the moment I met Eliyahu, he's been someone that I've looked up to as someone I aspire to be in his amazing family, as a family that, you know, represents what we're trying to achieve, my wife and I. And so I thought it'd be very fitting to, I guess, ask him some questions about how he did that. So I wanted to start by asking you, tell us a little bit about, you know, your background growing up and what you're working on.
So actually, I was born in Moscow, Russia, and it was the height of communism, which basically meant that I knew nothing about Judaism. During the communist days, it was very dangerous to live a Jewish life. So you were stamped Jewish in the passport, but there was nothing that you could do to mark your Jewish identity or to observe Jewish tradition. As such, I only found out that I was Jewish at the age of 7. And at that point, when my parents called me into the room and they said, "Come, we have something to tell you." And I said, "Yes." And they said, "You know, you're Jewish." I was 7 years old, and I was like, "What does that mean?" And they said, "Well, you're different." I said, "Okay, how am I different?" They said, "When you grow up, you'll understand." And so therefore, you know, I just looked at them, I said, "Can I go back to play now?" And they said, yes. That was the extent of my Jewish identity and my knowledge about Judaism. At the age of 7, my parents decided that there was no future for their children in Russia, and they immigrated to Israel. We lived there for a year and a half, moved to America. And in America, to keep, so to speak, their nice Jewish boy safe and to save him from the urban public school system, they enrolled me in a Jewish day school. Not because necessarily they wanted me to have a Jewish education, but simply they wanted to keep me safe. But, you know, what I heard from the teachers and the rabbis made a lot of sense. I was a kid who had a lot of questions. And as such, the answers that I heard to those questions made a lot of sense. And little by little, together with my family, I became observant. And I married a wonderful girl who is the daughter of Rabbi Shmuel Bloom. And we lived in Far Rockaway, New York for the first 7 to 9 years. And we moved out west to Indianapolis. It's a wonderful, wonderful community. We had a wonderful time there. But the kids needed better Jewish education. And we started thinking of various places that we could go to, different communities. And at one point, my wife and I just looked at each other and we just said, well, why don't we just go home? And at that point, we decided to make Aliyah. We came to Israel in summer of 2000. We've been here ever since. And we're very glad to have made that decision. So here we are.
What was it, if I could ask, that made the biggest impression on you in the course of your Jewish growth, or what really got you going, what really got you connected, and what do you feel has been throughout your experience the thing that's been the most inspiring for you in the realm of, I guess, Judaism?
You know, I guess the fact that everything has meaning. When you look at life from a secular perspective, and you look at what goes on in the world and the trends and just the way that life rolls out, where you spend probably the first 25 years of your life just sort of speak, getting going. And then you have what, like another 25 years, 30, maybe 40 years of significant productivity, and then seems to decline again. And it's just like, like all that effort for those 35, 40 years, and this is all there is. That's it. And so I guess when I started asking those questions and receiving the idea that, that there's a higher purpose here, and everything has meaning, and the fact that we're here for a purpose, that to me was very inspiring, that we're here, to accomplish something. And of course, as for, on a personal note, when I visited the homes of my teachers, of my rebbeim, or when I was in day school, there was one kid who was Shomer Shabbos, because it was primarily an outreach school. But one kid was from a religious family, and I spent Shabbos with him, and I was like, wow, this is so fantastic. This is such great family life. I want to have something like this. And I think that kind of pushed me along.
So that's a fascinating idea. So how did you, because so much of how we raise our families has to do with the examples we saw growing up in a lot of cases. How did you be able to make that jump in an authentic way of trying to raise your family in a Torah-based home and to continue to raise them that way, kind of throughout the period of raising your children?
Well, I'll tell you, I grew up in a very loving, nurturing home. So I think there was a lot of that we brought into our home, into our current family, together with the Torah values. So as long as the children feel loved, nurtured, cared for in a real meaningful way, not just with lip service, oh, I love you. They really feel it. They really feel that mom and dad are there for them, together with the ideals and the values that we hold dear, as far as, when you sit around the Shabbos table, you talk about positive things. You don't talk about, the negativity regarding other people, or Lashon Hara, or things that we do not value. You talk about the wonderful things that are going on. And it doesn't have to be necessarily about Torah. It doesn't have to be, Divrei Torah, or lessons in Hashkaf or in Musar. But as long as we enjoy each other's company, we have a good time, but in a positive atmosphere, and in a Torah-dika atmosphere, that's what counts. As a matter of fact, I'll share with you a story. When we were considering moving from New York to Indianapolis, we were a little bit uneasy about it, because we knew that Indianapolis was not exactly the Mecca of Torah life, so to speak. So we went to a Kabbalistic rabbi to ask, is this a move that we should be taking or not? And after a few minutes of pondering and contemplating, he opened up his eyes and he said, yes, go and you have my blessing. And I asked him, I said, I'm very concerned about my children. Here in New York, they have Torah role models. They have rabbis to look up to. They see Rosh Yeshiva. They see Hasidic rabbis. There's Talmidei Chachamim. In Indianapolis, there's not going to be any of that. How do I ensure that my kids are going to grow up as good Jews? And I was expecting an answer, something like, say a lot of Tehillim, say brachas with a lot of kavanah or out loud, or, daven well, learn a lot of Torah. You know what he said? He said, make your home a fun place to be for the kids. I was like, what? And he said, yes, exactly. Make your home a type of place that the kids will enjoy being. So therefore, instead of running to their friends after school, they're going to do just the opposite. They're going to schlep their friends to your home. And this way, you will see who they're friends with. And also, instead of your kids picking up perhaps not the best type of ideas in their friends' homes, on the contrary, their friends will be influenced in a positive way by being in your home. And so my wife and I have tried to do that, to make our home a fun place for the kids to be at, that it's light, there's no pressure, there's no negativity, just nurturing welcoming, accepting, loving home where it's fun. And when my wife is not busy running a school, then we make sure to have fun vacation time together. We go to different places wherever we can, so that the kids see that we want them to have a good time. We want them to enjoy, and we blast music, and we dance, and we do all sorts of things that bring about a really positive, loving atmosphere in the home.
So the question that keeps popping up is, how do you either it sounds like that this is a very thought out and proactive approach, as opposed to, I feel happy today, I'm going to, therefore it's just going to be naturally, like you're actually planning this thing out? Or how does a person who is pulled in a lot of directions as a parents are going all the different directions, and there's work and there's kids, and the kids might not be behaving the way that we want them to, or we're tired and we have our own stuff going on. So how do you create that atmosphere in a long-term way that's not necessarily dependent on your moods or the financial situation, which might or might not be where we want it to be? So, and you had an amazing story you told me one time about, I just to jog your memory, because you'll tell it better than me, but about how you had some kind of a major financial situation happen to you, and how you had to kind of fall back on that training of the main goal of building this positive home with your family. Do you remember what I'm talking about, or not necessarily?
Not precisely.
So, some huge deal you had like fallen apart, and the only thing you could do was like dance with your kids because you didn't want them to see how broken you were, or whatever it was. Do you remember that?
Yes. Now I recall. We did. My brother-in-law had an import-export company when Russia just opened up, and we were shipping tons of product to the former Soviet Union, and we had a lot of money invested. And thank God for a year or two, it was knocking beautifully, and we're taking all the money, all the profits, and reinvesting it back into the company so that we could ship more and more product, and obviously hope to make more and more profit. But the Russian mafia muscled their way in, and they basically gave us a choice. They said, well, either you join our efforts or not. And we said, we're not going to join your efforts. But our partner on the other end in Russia was very upset that we didn't want to take their lucrative offer. And he basically took all our merchandise and shipped it off to the mafia. And we were left basically with nothing, because everything was invested into the merchandise. And so therefore we decided that we didn't want to go back into this business, because we didn't want the same thing to happen again. And we were left with all of our investments and all of our hard work over the course of 2 years down the drain. And it was difficult to face, because we had high hopes for all that success, and now it was all gone. But I didn't, like you said, I really didn't want the children to see that we're devastated by the outcome. And so therefore I turned up the stereo when I got this news, and the kids had just come from home, and we started a huge dance in our living room. And the reason is because things don't always work out the way that we'd like them to, but we're still happy that we're alive, and that we have an opportunity to go on.
How do you have that? How did you have that mindset at that moment? Like, how do you develop that?
So to tell you the truth, back then, I really don't know what made me do it. But something that I've been thinking about a lot, especially now that I have the privilege of living in Jerusalem, and I wake up to a beautiful view out of my window, and I have the opportunity to do what I love. So I feel that I'm really living the dream. And sometimes, even while living the dream, the difficulties crop up, as you mentioned, be it the kids sometimes don't do what we'd want them to do, or there's difficulties associated with certain transaction that I might be doing, or the schools that my wife is running, and life has its shares of hard knocks. But I guess the focus is that, as they like to stay here, as they like to say here in Israel, that you open up your eyes in the morning, that's already great. Everything else is a bonus. Basically, what I try to focus on when I wake up in the morning is that I'm a pauper. I have absolutely nothing, and I deserve absolutely nothing. The fact that I am able to breathe, that in itself, that is a gift of life that the Almighty has given to me. Now, anything on top of that is already a gift beyond my wildest expectations. So the fact that I have a wonderful, beautiful wife who is my soulmate, with whom I have this tremendous kesher and bond where we understand each other and we know each other so intimately and so well, to the fact that we don't even have to speak in order to know what the other one is feeling or thinking. The fact that we have kids who are remarkable and bring us so much joy. The fact that we're healthy. The fact that we're doing in life what we want to do. So many people are miserable going to work that they hate, and we're involved in something that we truly enjoy. The fact that we live where we want to live. The fact that I wake up, like I mentioned, to this beautiful view, that's all blessing. And the fact that we're able to host guests on Shabbos, and the fact that we're able to enjoy the kids, and when they need Shabbos shoes, we're able to buy them Shabbos shoes. And all these little things, these are all tremendous bonuses on top of that. So if life is so good, if life is so terrific, so once in a while something comes up that's not perfect, so first of all, wow, that's already amazing and terrific, and thank you so much. But on top of that, if life has been so wonderful to date, then chances are this bump in the road that I'm experiencing now, because Almighty has been good to me so far, then this bump in the road is good for me. I may not see it now. I may not know exactly why. I may not be thrilled with the fact that I'm experiencing it, but Hashem is doing it for my benefit. Hashem is doing it for my good. And if so, then who am I to feel bad about it? Let me do my best to overcome the challenge, to face it head on. And soon I will see how it was meant to be good for me.
And is that a practice? Is that something that you take time in terms of, taking time in the morning to think about that actively, or is that something that you've just sort of conditioned yourself to over time, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. Absolutely. It's something that you have to focus on. You have to think about it to get it into your system, so to speak. But even after thinking about it and internalizing it and really making it part of you, so you still need constant reminders, especially when life takes a turn that is difficult and you face challenges and you're facing ordeals. So then you need extra encouragement to dwell on these topics and to remind yourself that this is what it's about. Absolutely.
Okay. There are two areas I want to just jump into. The first one is that, you were working in a business, you were an entrepreneur and trying to, looking to make something very significant happen. And now you spend your full time is spent studying Torah, and your wife, both of you are unbelievably talented, but your wife opted to open a school, and now you have two seminaries, Nachlas Beis Yaakov and Tehillas Beis Yaakov, and I literally have people get wind that I know you, and all of a sudden, can you talk to them about you have this unbelievably successful seminary. So the questions, the two questions that perhaps you could enlighten me on is, first of all, why did you decide, or how do you make that decision to focus in for yourself full-time learning versus taking your unbelievable talents and moving it into a commercial venture, and then where you guys invested yourself in the realm of making people better? Why specifically young women? How specifically did you do it that it's so successful? So how did you guys make that assessment, and maybe some tips and tricks about how to find that level of excellence in I guess in my life, how I do that?
So as far as making the transition to go from perhaps business or working to learning, obviously that's not for everyone, and it has to be something that person really, really does. And that ties in with your second question is,
What do you mean really, really does?
you know, that a person has to love what he's doing. So if it's something that he really loves, then he's going to be good at it, and obviously he's going to enjoy it. And the more he enjoys it, the more he's going to do it, and the better he's going to be at it. I loved learning in yeshiva, and I enjoyed it very, very much. But you know, then one child comes and two children come, and then you say, "Oh, listen, I got to go to work." And the person goes to work, and that's what I was doing. But my heart was really in learning, and having come to Israel and worked here for 10 years for a wonderful organization called Shuvu, which was basically running schools for Russian immigrant children to be makar of them. So I guess they did a good number on me, and they showed me how wonderful Torah is. And all these years of being married, I was yearning to get back to the Beis Medrash. And I guess while I was in Shuvu, and as we started the seminary, so at that point, when there was enough money for us to live, not not in a luxurious manner, but enough for us to have and to take care of our children, I guess I had the choice of, well, do I continue in business and live more comfortably, or do I pursue that which I feel is important, which is important for my soul, important for the Jewish people, important for my family, but reduce a little bit the level of comfort that we would have financially. And so I guess the answer was that we're going to reduce that level of financial comfort. And we're going to do that which makes us happy. And when I say us, meaning myself, I think my wife feels good that her husband is pursuing Torah learning. I think the kids also have a degree of pride that we live a normal life, but at the same time, my father's learning Torah, not because he has to, not because he can't do anything else, not because, you know, this is like, you know, okay, so this is what he does. No, he does it because he can do other things, but he's choosing to do this. And I think that gives him a very, very good, important lesson in life, while at the same time giving them a very good feeling of self-pride and self-worth and so on. So, but getting back to your other question, what made us go into this industry, let's put it, of running a seminary? Somebody would have told me 15 years ago, you know, Eliyahu, you're going to open up a seminary and your wife is going to run it. I would have said, yeah, right, forget it. But what happened was, when we arrived in Israel, my wife very much wanted to continue her trend of hosting Jews from all walks of life on Shabbos and Yom Tovim. And so we opened up our home to students of Neve Yerushalayim, girls from various backgrounds that came to immerse themselves in Judaic studies here in Yerushalayim. And also, we would have very often FFB girls joining us for Shabbos meal who were studying here in seminary. And we heard things that they were very happy about in seminary, and we heard things that they felt could use a little bit improvement. And we always put those lessons like in the back of our heads, like if we were doing things, how would we do it differently in order to maximize the girls' enjoyment and getting the most out of their experience of learning in Israel. And that's where it remained. It remained in the back of our minds and remained on the back burner until our oldest daughter was in 11th grade. And she said, Mommy, Abba, I want to go to an American seminary in Israel. We said, great, go ahead. They said, yes, but they won't accept me. So we said, okay, so what does everybody else do who's American living in Israel, who has daughters that want to go to American seminary? She said, well, some of them, they go to America for 12th grade. They apply from there, and then they come to study in Israel. I said, okay, good. So do you want to do that? She said, nope, I don't want to leave Israel. I want to live with you guys. I want to be in Eretz Israel. I said, so what do you want us to do? She says, I'd like to open up a seminary. I said, you got to be kidding. She says, no, I'm telling you, you could do it. You should do it. And you're going to be great at it. So what doesn't a parent do for a child, right? You can relate. But my wife, kind of laughed it off. But my daughter and I sat down. We made some plans. We made some ideas. And lo and behold, we had a plan going. So my wife, after watching us plan and lay things out, she said, if you can't beat them, join them. And she rolled up her sleeves and she started planning this. She found a financial backer from the States, and we opened up the seminary. And the truth is that from day one, really from the time that we put pencil to paper, there's been tremendous siyata d'ishmaya, and we feel like HaKadosh Baruch Hu has been with us every step of the way. And it's a type of thing that could take off, that could not take off. There's been so many schools that opened up, and they had wonderful people at the helm. And for one reason or another, it just didn't go. And every single step of the way, we feel that there's a divine hand pushing us along, guiding us, and helping us do it the way that it should be done. And thank God, it's been very successful.
Amazing. And now it's not one, but it's two schools. You employ over 50 people, and how many girls are in your program?
Nachlas this year has 115. Tehilas has 72. And Baruch Hashem, I think they're relatively happy, and I think that the parents feel that they're very well taken care of, that they're being nurtured, that they're really gaining from their experience in Eretz Yisrael, and halavai zoi weiter. God willing, it should continue this way. Yetz Hashem.
Amen. Okay, just one more quick question. I don't want to overwhelm you and take your time, but I feel like I can't have a conversation with you and not try to get an update or just a repeat of the lessons I found so important. When it comes to being a good husband, right? Just on one foot, and we're not talking about a new husband, talking about it. I'm call it an old husband. I feel like an old husband. I had it like the happiest thing about me, not because I didn't like having a beard, but the best part about shaving was I could shave all the gray off the sides of my face. But
I know exactly how you feel.
It's just like every year you're like, oh no, not again. But you have to be an old husband, I guess you can say. We're talking 5 to 20 plus years. Best advice on one foot to an amazing marriage after your 10-year anniversary. Go for it.
Wow, that's tough to say. First of all, I think as far as to yourself, I think it's okay to say that even after 10 or 20 or 30 years, a husband will do something to mess up. And I do that. And sometimes because you're rushing, you're not thinking things through, you might do something that will upset your best friend in life, will upset the person that you're closest with. But when that happens, to take the time to say, I'm really sorry, I messed up, I apologize. And that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu teaches us that by giving us the opportunity for tshuva. So when we do mess up, to do vidur, to knock on our chest, to say, I'm sorry, I messed up, I'm really going to try not to do this again, and to realize where exactly did I go wrong, and to try not to do that. But the most important thing is to constantly remind ourselves that I think that, when we were engaged, right, and what wouldn't we have done for our college? So now that we've lived together for 30 years, I wouldn't do this, what my wife is asking for. This is the person that means the world to me. And yes, at times, perhaps she might ask me something that I'm not thrilled to do, or maybe she might do something that I'm not the happiest about. But that doesn't remove her self-worth of who she is, what she's done for the family, what she's done for the people around us. So my heart bursts with pride for the fact that I have such an unbelievably remarkable person as my life partner. And so the more I think that we drive it into our minds and into our hearts, into our souls, that we've been blessed with this fantastic spouse that loves us and cares for us and does so much for us, then again, we have nothing coming to us. We're not, so to speak, deserving of anything. It's just that this chesed that's being bestowed upon us from Shemayim, from by Hashem, by giving us this spouse, then we should be overcome with gratitude and thanksgiving that we have them. The Gemara, I believe it's in Bava Metzia, says that the conduit for blessing into the home, the pipeline, is the wife. So if we make our wives happy, if we make them feel loved and appreciated and respected and honored, then that pipeline grows and becomes thicker. It becomes not a 1-inch pipe, not a 3-inch. It becomes major, and the bounty comes down. But that's the trick. The trick is that when we honor our wives, when we make them feel loved, as they should be, and as they are, honestly, the way that we feel towards them, that is the source of blessing to the home.
Amazing. Okay, that was fantastic. I really appreciate it. I think I was smiling pretty much for the entire interview. So I think that this was really, really good, and I really appreciate it. And
I feel very honored that you asked me to participate. You asked me to be part of this, and I really think that what you're doing is tremendous. I think it's very, very helpful to many individuals, and I wish you tremendous hatzlacha going further. A lot of siyata d'shmaya.
Thank you so much.